September 11th seems to be a time to stop and talk a little bit about preparedness and emergency management, among other things. And so we turn to our Calhoun County Emergency Management Director, Dirk Dunham, who's with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here today. Preparedness Month, in fact, in September.
Yeah, the whole month is dedicated to preparedness, which is a great thing. It's a national time for nationwide to think about being prepared for disasters as we come across, or actually day after, one of the most significant disasters in the history of our country.
What does preparedness really mean in today's terms?
Preparedness has a lot of different definitions, and some of it depends on your lifestyle. Some of it depends on, how many people are in your family, and some of it depends on, frankly, money and what kind of funds you have to be able to do this.
This has been the story when we talk about Hurricane Irma and Harvey and some of the other things, certainly Katrina, that orders to evacuate cannot always be heeded because we don't have the resources to do it.
Right. Evacuation is obviously the first thing that you want to do if there's an evacuation order. In some cases, it's not going to happen. People make personal decisions to do things, may not be the safest things, but that's a decision that they're entitled to make. With that being said, I think they have a personal responsibility to make sure that they have some supplies put aside and a game plan in the event that they lose electricity, don't have running water, things of that nature.
And so these are the things we should think about. Even if a thunderstorm rolled through and we lost power and the cell phone didn't work and that sort of thing, we should have some idea what we might do. Yeah,
and I think, there's some TV shows out there. One of them was called Preppers, and which I found kind of interesting, as a lot of people did. But frankly, you don't need $1 million to prepare for a disaster. And the message clearly is, if you could have some food, some water, some basic supplies, think about medication, think about your pets. The list goes on and can be found at ready.gov. By the way, and we'll talk about that later. But the point is for $20, you can get 72 hours worth of supplies that will go a long ways in having you prepared for any kind of an emergency that would show a power outage, or maybe something along flooding. It could be anything, but the real point is you don't need $1 million to go out and build a bunker. That's not necessary. You can take it to whatever level you're comfortable with and whatever level you can afford.
And then, as you pointed out, $20 could be the basic level.
Absolutely. I mean, there's water and a flashlight right there. That's where it starts.
So $20 for this basic preparedness kit. You said 72 hours worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you find that?
Well, $20 is obviously just a suggestion. It might be $25.
Got it. Okay.
You can really go anywhere. There are sites online, that you can get a pre-made kit. And that may or may not work depending on what your needs are. You can go to the local stores and pretty much put a kit together yourself. I think it's relatively easy to do. You start out with a bag or a box and you load it up. The one thing I like to tell people, the two most important things really are right out of the gate are water and light. So get a couple of flashlights. Make sure you have extra batteries that are not stored inside the flashlight, because they will go bad after a while. And that's where you begin. From there, you look at canned goods. You look at making sure your pets are taken care of with food for them. The list goes on. And repeating again, ready.gov has incredible suggestions on how to build an emergency plan, a kit, those kinds of things. But Googling it, if you Google emergency plan or emergency kit, you will have hundreds of suggestions.
Okay. Good to know. So when you look at, we don't get hurricanes here, but, we get other things, tornadoes and things of that nature. When you look at what kind of response is necessary in an event like this, do you feel we are prepared, first responders and emergency response?
Yeah, we are. prepared. I don't have any problem in saying that whatsoever. I think one of the main things to remember is it's not necessarily just about our county. I am able to reach out regionally to get resources. I'm able to reach out to the state to get resources, and certainly if it's bad enough, the federal government. But that situation is always in place, anytime, 24/7. I just have to start making phone calls. And so really that's kind of how that would work. The big thing that I want to stress is making sure people are familiar with the fact that, yes, we can have a disaster in Michigan, because we have had. We have had several. And so it's important for them to remember, and that's what I try to do in my job, is remind people, just because we haven't had a weather event that has been a problem for the county doesn't mean it's not going to happen next weekend. So please don't forget.
Right. Do first responders get ongoing training for responding to things like this?
Yeah, they do. Part of disaster response, well, there's a lot of tentacles to disaster response, certainly, but first responders are trained in how to deal with several aspects of disasters, and it could be anything from the people part of it to water to electricity. There's safety is always first, so the training is going to be geared around any safety procedures that would become necessary to follow in the event that there was a disaster. That's first and foremost.
All right, and so our thanks to all of those who are prepared.
Yeah, the unsung heroes, the people, the first responders that some will stay and do their job, some will quickly come back. The volunteers, another unsung group of heroes in my book, people that go down there that are trained to go down there, that are really doing it at their own cost and peril. And that's an amazing thing, and it shows the strength of our country and has historically.
Last time the sheriff and the police chief were here, Harvey had just hit.
Yes.
And they were careful to say, for those of us who are not holding a first responder post right now, but might feel like we need to get up and go down and help, sometimes that has effects that are counter to helping. How do you know if you should help as an average person?
Well, there are ways to find that out. Certainly, watching the media very closely, you almost have to be involved in some type of volunteer group in order to be in a situation that you're going to get called out. And let me explain that a little bit. You could be a reserve deputy. You could be a part-paid firefighter. You could be a member of a CERT team, which we have a search and rescue team and a CERT team in our county, and the city of Battle Creek does as well. Those are the kinds of groups that are going to be sought after first. And, let there be no mistake, a big heart is a wonderful thing, but if you die in the process of trying to help others because you're untrained, it doesn't help anybody out.
Right, that's right. 9/11/2001, 16 years ago today, I imagine emergency management at this level was different somehow, right?
Yeah, it was very different. The awareness factor came first. It made us aware of the fact that this was actually possible. There was only one worse attack on our soil, and that was Pearl Harbor, and most people don't even remember, the specifics of that. So this was a strong, unbelievably horrible reminder that we're not immune to that kind of a situation, that kind of an attack.
Yeah, Nico was talking about having been in school at that age, and the Federal Center being in Battle Creek. Boy, we just didn't know what the extent of this attack was.
Right.
And I imagine that in as much as you can talk about it, that still is a concern today, probably.
Well, yeah, it is created. I mean, it was a creation, I shouldn't really refer to it as a creation, it was an event that created a whole new set of rules and responsibilities and things that had to be taken very seriously and flat out planned for. And I think that was the real message for first responders and people that have to deal with us on a daily basis in terms of preparation. I think that was the wake-up call.
Not just this could possibly happen here, but what if it did, and what would we do?
Yeah, it did. And actually in 1993, Ramzi Youssef was the first bombing in New York, and many people don't remember that, but that was actually kind of a warm-up, if you will, to what we experienced on 9/11.
Right, and maybe what happened on 9/11 was the goal that day, but it didn't come anywhere close.
Yeah, and it was a different kind of thing. It was really one person that actually committed it. There was others involved, but Ramzi Youssef went to the basement and exploded. You know, the explosion went off. It was not anywhere near the magnitude of what we experienced with 9/11, which was really a multiple occurrence at multiple areas in our country.
Right. All right, so one of the things that's changed in the last 16 years is the availability of information.
Oh, boy.
And technology has helped with that, hasn't it?
Right. Oh, unbelievable. You see it if you paid attention yesterday, as I did, to the developments down in Florida. And certainly my thoughts and prayers, as well as the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Saxon, go out to the people in Florida trying to manage this awful disaster they went through. But looking at that kind of a scenario, the social media part of it really played an integral part of communications in a lot of different respects. A real quick example I gave you on the break, a Facebook friend who left her home in Key West to be in a safe place with her and her kids. Actually, her neighbor stayed, shouldn't have done it, but he did, and was able to live feed Facebook. And so she could actually see what her street looked like from the safety of a northern Florida location, which, I obviously don't recommend that. Nobody would. But that gives you an idea of the power this time around of social media in a disaster.
Right. And here in Calhoun County, the Nixle thing helps keep us informed.
Yeah, we have an application that we subscribe to that we are committed to and stand behind, and it's the Nixle.com. Nixle is a system. It's an alert system that you can easily put onto your phone. It doesn't take more than about 5 minutes, and you will get primarily it's weather alerts, advisories. I try to keep it down to things that are most significant. Wind watch is not something you're going to see coming through the Nixle. But there are several agencies that have their own Nixle. With ours, it's mostly weather. If there was a big disaster, certainly I would get on and Nixle that report.
Okay. And this is an app you can download.
It is an app you can do. It's Nixle.com. Or you can go on to our website, the Sheriff's Office Emergency Management website, and that's easily located at calhouncountysheriff.info. calhouncountysheriff.info. That'll take you to our website, Emergency Management Division, and you can click on the Nixle link.
And set up an advisory that way if you want.
Yes, and then there's other links there as well, too, like ready.gov, which I spoke of earlier.
All right. I did the email thing, so I get the emails from Nixle when they come in, but I kind of like that app idea.
Yes.
Maybe I'll go find that one, too. So how do you spell Nixle?
Nixle. Nixle.com, or you can go to the website.
Nixle. Of course, ready.gov to get expanded information on some of the things Dirk's talked about in Preparedness Month here in September. We'll stay in touch.
Always a pleasure, Richard. Invite me anytime.
Thank you. Dirk
Thank
Dunham,
you, sir.
Calhoun County Sheriff's Department Emergency Management Office.